Academica Media. From Academica Media Studios in Miami, Florida, it's Big Ideas in Education, a weekly recap of inspiration and innovation in your schools.
Hello, education lovers, and welcome to our very first episode of the new year of Big Ideas in Education. I'm Ryan Kairalla of Doral College, joined by co-host Sarah, Dr. Sarah Boulos from first mess up of the new year. Get it out of the way early, I always say.
Yeah.
Dr. Sarah Boulos from Somerset Academy Schools is here. How are you, Sarah? Happy New Year.
I'm doing well. You know, we've gotten such a nice break that you forgot my name. That's fine. And if you have a keen observer will know that we are wearing the same clothes as we did in 2022 because this is a time travel episode. We're still recording in 2022, but we're coming at you in 2023 so that we can have a little bit of a break with our families.
You never uphold the fantasy on this show.
I'm sorry. I'm very transparent when it comes to recording. I'm okay with it. I mean,
Ever the honest educator.
I listen to a lot of podcasts, and when they tell me that they're time traveling, I'm like, I get it.
Well, one of these days we're going to master the art of doing an episode of the future and playing it in the past. But
I mean, didn't we do that for most of 2021?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. We did a lot of episodes. We did like a massive recording in 2021, and we played those every so often.
That's right.
Or was
That's
that 2020? I don't know. It was one of those years in the pandemic.
It all blends together.
Blurred. Yes, exactly.
So,
well, that's definitely what people are here for, to hear us riff about
time travel and episodes from 2 years ago.
From 2 years ago that we can't remember.
Normally, fans of this show, the diehards, if you will, know that the format of this is usually that we tend to bring in two completely different stories in education, and then we share them and go, wow, our stories were so different this week.
But
this
somehow
week we're gonna
work together.
Yeah, but and then we always have to like struggle to find some way to blend it together, and that's always fun. This week, we're changing it up a little bit. We have two stories that are kind of in the same spiritual family to kind of maybe carry on a united conversational thread, just because we are so both very interested in the developments in this field. And we're going to talk about artificial intelligence in education this week. And you're going to hear it through the eyes of two very non-STEM educators. So if we get any technical words wrong,
because we're all STEM educators.
That's true.
There we go.
And so just as a disclaimer, if we get any technical terms wrong, if we get any of the terminology wrong, her Twitter handle is @readwithphi. You can you can send all the discourse over to her.
Please do, because I'd like to learn.
Sarah, what story do you have for us this week?
Well, I think, how important is it that we actually need to be teaching artificial intelligence? What does this really have to do with schools? If you're anything like me, you've been hearing a lot about artificial intelligence, or AI, of course. But if you're also like me, you may feel like that Andy Dwyer meme about, I don't know what it is, and at this point, I'm too afraid to ask. Well, according to Charles Randolph, the Senior Instructional Technology Coordinator for Arlington Public Schools in Arlington, Virginia, we are all already deeply involved in AI, whether we realize it or not. It's not all, AR goggles and all of that. He talks about how every time we open our Netflix home screen, algorithms have already been working to curate what is in front of us. And in a few short years, we're talking about having people on other planets. The job market is going to be completely inundated with AI to determine not just how to get there, but also what astronauts will eat. And all of these elements require education to ensure our students are competitive in that market. So what's a non-tech proficient educator to do? Luckily, the International Society for Technology and Education, ISTE, is a worldwide organization dedicated to transforming learning with technology. And they've developed a program just for us.
Thank you.
AI explorations and their practical use in school environments is an ISTE professional learning program funded by General Motors that cultivates future AI programmers and provides professional learning for educators to support student-driven AI explorations. It's a mouthful, but their goals are to create scalable, best-in-class professional learning experiences for educators that can spread the knowledge of a variety of approaches to using artificial intelligence in classrooms, cultivate student-driven AI explorations and practical use in school environments, draw underrepresented student populations who might otherwise never consider AI as relevant to them to explore interdisciplinary associated careers, and develop an AI teacher and students coaching and mentorship network with the active participation of AI experts from corporate R&D teams, STEM higher education faculty, and K-12 subject matter experts. I'm being very honest when I say I am extremely new to these ideas. So I'm excited to learn more. And I believe there's a lot of material here that is available completely free. So if you are an educator without a lot of extra funds or time to look at what AI is, we got something for you. In addition to sharing these resources, I am going to be doing a lot of my own homework to make sure I have some context for what's coming, because it seems like this is a really important component to what education is going to look like.
And what's coming is something that's pretty incredible. And not only is AI's continued dominance over, most of the economy coming quickly, but it's coming at an increasing rate. Like it's one of the it's exponential. Like you're not going to see it, and then one day you blink and like AI is going to be all around you in ways that you can't see. Like when Netflix tells you like the perfect show to watch, to things you very much can see because it's right in front of your face. And a lot of jobs of the future and a lot of learning of the future has to be built with AI in mind. And I love that you brought up the interdisciplinary approach of this, because I think a lot of people are afraid that, because if I don't know my way, or if I don't know how to code, if I don't know my way around a computer, then there's no job for me in the AI economy. And that's just not true. Like, this is a multidisciplinary approach. I was just talking with an entrepreneur last week who works in AI, who was saying one of the biggest demands that we're going to see in AI is in the philosophy fields, philosophy and ethics. We need somebody to teach these AI machines how to not be evil, how to make good moral decisions. And so a lot of the hiring that's happening right now for AI is like for ethicists. And so that's pretty striking, right? So there's a lot of humanity that needs to be brought into this field. And so while STEM is obviously the centerpiece of this, like, there is absolutely a big space for liberal arts to play to make this AI as effective as we need it to be. And it's certainly scary, because like the next few years are not going to look like the last few years, but it's so exciting.
Yeah. And so I am excited to hear what your article is about, because when you heard that I was going to talk about AI, you were like, Sarah, just wait.
Yeah.
And I think you told me, I already forgot what you said it was going to be about, but I immediately said, I don't know what that is.
Well, then I'm going to clue you in to, because if you didn't hear it from me, you're going to hear it from somebody very, very soon, because this thing is everywhere right now, and it is exciting, also kind of scary. By the time I'm done with this, you are either going to be like eyes wide in excitement, or you're going to want to hide under a blanket. I'm going to tell you,
we'll find out.
Or both, a little bit of both. You could be excited while your head's under a blanket.
I mean, I do love a good blanket. So.
Yeah, it was like nice weighted blankets, make you feel good. Yeah.
Real cozy.
I want to talk to you about ChatGPT, Sarah, a pretty interesting application of artificial intelligence that is making its way into education. So to give you some background, ChatGPT is a new AI-powered chatbot that has the potential to revolutionize the way we approach education. So ChatGPT stands for Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer. It's a cutting-edge technology that uses artificial intelligence and machine learning to engage students in natural, human-like conversations. ChatGPT can answer questions, it can provide explanations, it can even engage students in debate, all in real time. And right now, ChatGPT is currently free to use. Anybody can access this platform. Now, for educators, one of the most promising applications of ChatGPT is its ability to provide personalized learning experiences for students. By using ChatGPT, teachers can instantaneously create things like grading rubrics, or even customize lesson plans and assignments that are tailored to the needs and interests of each student, and you can have it do that instantaneously. This can help to increase student engagement and motivation, as well as improve learning outcomes. However, there are also lots of risks associated with ChatGPT and its use in education. one major concern is the potential for cheating. With ChatGPT's advanced capabilities, students may be tempted to use it to complete assignments or take exams without actually understanding the material, which of course could undermine the integrity of the education system and maybe even undermine the value of a degree. To mitigate these risks, it's important for educators to carefully consider how ChatGPT is used in the classroom and to establish strict guidelines for its use. It'll also be important for educators to stay vigilant and closely monitor student behavior to ensure that ChatGPT is not used for cheating. But overall, ChatGPT has the potential to be a powerful tool in improving education, but it is important to consider both the benefits and risks. Now, Sarah, as I'm giving you this explanation, you might be wondering just how powerful is this platform? How human-like is this platform? I'm going to tell you exactly how powerful. That story I just gave, I didn't write it.
Oh.
ChatGPT did.
Okay.
I went into ChatGPT and I said, I host an education podcast. I want to tell a story about how ChatGPT's potential and risks in education. And in 0.3 of a second, it gave me what you just heard.
Okay. I did not know that. So I think I'm surprised at the interaction where you actually asked it for something versus like, Googling or auto summarizing.
This wasn't like Boolean connectors or anything.
Right.
I just asked it like it was another human being.
Right.
Do this for me.
That is really interesting. Okay, so that's blowing my mind and taking my brain in a different direction. But the direction my brain was going in before you said that was I was thinking when kids come up with really great questions in the moment, which happens all the time in schools. A lot of time we're like, let's Google that and let's come back. Let's do some research on that later. Utilizing this kind of platform for those kinds of questions that come up in the moment. Something else, though, that kind of struck me was when you talked about the potential for cheating. Mm-hmm. What I also wonder is, what about, it just brings up a question about authorship and about citation and intellectual property. Something that I've been talking about with some friends is, a lot of apps are coming out with these like photo AI enhancers, right? And it brings up a lot of questions about art ownership, right? And who is doing this? And it's, it's almost a philosophical debate, but I'm sure it's going to become a legal debate about who is the author of this material and who has the right and how do we properly attribute it to whomever, right? It kind of takes me back a little bit to talking to kids about online sources and how to cite certain sources and how do we determine fact versus opinion and bias in different things. Like artificial intelligence is still not a pure medium, right? It is still being developed based on what we learn from people, and people are imperfect, unreliable narrators of existence and of our reality. So it is very interesting. And so I guess I'm throwing a lot of things out there as an English teacher, as a former English teacher, about the ways that we would discuss authorship and we would discuss authenticity and bias in my classroom. So yeah, a lot of things going through my mind.
Well, what you're actually describing is kind of the next frontier in copyright law. It's something that we copyright lawyers are trying to battle with as we speak. Not only like if a work is created completely by artificial intelligence, who owns it, but also if it is created through a combination of artificial intelligence with some human input, how does that change it? Or how about the fact that most of these artificial intelligence platforms are training themselves with work that was created by others? Like ChatGPT only knows what it knows because it has leveraged a corpus of training data that was fed into it by the people who designed it.
And who is designing it?
Yeah.
And so where are they getting their information?
It's I mean, the ethical implications alone are staggering, but even just like in the limited universe of just education, it's pretty wild. Like I cannot emphasize enough how impressive this thing is. I was, and you know, how it's a little scary as an educator. I was, just for kicks, I just finished my final exam for one of my Doral College classes. I fed one of my essay questions to ChatGPT. I didn't change a single thing. I just cut and paste the actual question in there. It fed me a model answer. It's,
wow.
It's an answer that, I mean, I like
future students of Ryan.
Well, but exactly right. But that's scary to me.
Right.
And because you're talking about a tool that could be used for plagiarism that, at least as of now, can get around plagiarism detectors, because ChatGPT is not using any text that exists on the internet today. So a plagiarism detection software, at least not the ones that most schools use, can't detect whether something was created by artificial intelligence or not. And so this is a whole new dimension of plagiarism that either technology or the education system is going to have to catch up to,
right,
to make sure that students are actually presenting authentic work.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another thought that I had was more along the lines of when I've been teaching students about sources, right? And this is a source. I've often told, I have been in education long enough that I remember when we were telling students Wikipedia is not a source, right? You can't use Wikipedia because it wasn't a reliable source. And I remember telling students, which by the way is not really what we tell students now. So that, that says something. But I remember telling students, think about your sources and what you use them for, right? So I wouldn't want to tell students that this is all good, all bad, all anything, right? Nothing is all or nothing. Nothing is all or nothing. We'll play with that phrase. But we'd want to think about what would this be a good use for? So it sounds like this would be a good use to get kind of a general idea of something. So like you did, you put this in there and you said, I want to talk about what it is and its implications in education. But then I think it's on us as educators to help students kind of go through and be critical consumers of that. So how much of this is based in fact that I can find and corroborate in other sources? How do I triangulate what it's telling me? Because as you mentioned, it is being auto-generated, or it is being compiled based on the output comes from the input, right? And we have to question the same way we question the authorial bias of an article that we find online or in a newspaper or in any media. We have to question the authorial bias of what the input is. And I think that's going to be an interesting conversation to have as educators.
And just a pretty interesting way to create lessons using ChatGPT in a way that can allow your students to critically examine the material, critically examine the assumptions it makes. And while I do say that ChatGPT submits like pretty solid answers to questions, like, if, sometimes when I've given it an essay question, it turns back an A paper. Sometimes it gets things wrong because the assumptions it's using are flawed. And so maybe engaging your students in an exercise where they examine the ChatGPT answer and talk about ways that it could be a stronger answer, talk about where it got it wrong, and question some of the assumptions it made. What a really impressive demonstration of critical thinking on the part of your students that also prepares them for those future AI careers that you talked about, where maybe for a living they're going to be examining these platforms to try to improve them.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
I mean, so it sounds like you're not hiding under a blanket right now. That's a positive development.
I guess. I mean, I wouldn't mind a blanket, but yeah, I'm not hiding. I think that there's a lot that I need to, a lot of muscle flexing that's going to need to happen in 2023 to make sure that I'm ready for the implications in our schools.
It's pretty wild. Well, we're all going into 2023 together, and we're happy to have you all joining us for the ride. Looking forward to a lot of fantastic episodes of Big Ideas coming up this year. You can follow me on Twitter at RyanKair, follow Sarah at ReadWithFi, and you can tweet at us with your thoughts on this week's episode at Academica Media with the hashtag BigIdeasInEducation. Thrilled to be hosting some shows with you this year, Sarah.
Same to you, Ryan. Bye, everyone. Have a great new year.
The views expressed on the preceding program have been those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Academica, its clients, staff, affiliates, or advertisers.